Councillor Kushner. Bad timing.
Thank you very much, Convener. And yes, whilst we must listen and take into consideration external advisors' suggestions and proposals, it is ultimately up to us as elected members to make a decision on the allocation. And I think the administration take a rather a la carte approach to this, Convener, because we have at the Education Committee where there is external advisors and they suggest things which the administration and the committee do not like, and they then refer that to full council to defeat them. So we're not going to take any lectures here from the convener on the administration following external advisors. The reality is politicians ultimately have been elected to decide, and it is within our purview to make sensible and reasoned amendments, as we have done so today. And, sorry, convener, our focus is really on rejigging what we have at the moment in terms of employability and skills, and trying to provide some more hope to individuals in relation to those remits. The areas where we have removed funding has already seen substantial funding over the last 2 years. For example, to C fine, over kind of £500,000 of funding has been allocated in that regard. So there has been substantial funding there. And this pot shouldn't be something which is expected for organisations. It is an additional extra, and I'm glad that my previous comments and amendments in terms of staffing have been brought to bear. We also don't want a dependency on the fund or an expectation, and we have talked to that, I think, at some length within this committee, and I know there's kind of a broad agreement on that, and the difficult situation which organisations find themselves in bidding for funding. So we have reallocated that funding in a different way. We have taken the money that would have been going to CFINE and broadening it out. We're looking at building upon the experience we have in individuals starting businesses to provide some further opportunity and grant funding in respect of that. If we could have someone who has a real entrepreneurial spirit, the get up and go, but they just have not had the life chances which others have had, we could see great things, not just for them, but for our city, harking back to our comments on the support for work and the support for entrepreneurs and businesses who employ people and drive economic growth across this city. I think we could have some real talents coming forward from that, and there aren't many opportunities if you are starting a business which requires a decent chunk of money. And if we actually look back at some of the government interventions in terms of grant funding for business owners or starting up businesses, there have been some great achievements there. There's also, of course, risk, but it's a calculated risk, convener, a calculated risk in favour of our city and our citizens. And within this element focusing on work, we're also moving money from the discretionary housing payments, and I appreciate that is broader than the rental assistance fund that we have, which only applies to social tenants. This is broader. There's already been funding for this previously, so we are looking into other areas. We are backing Back to Work clothing fund, as we know that individuals may struggle to get ready for work or not have the funding available to get themselves suited and booted if you're a man, or whatever dress or clothes you wish to wear as a lady. So we want to provide some funding in relation to that so that people can enter into the workforce in a way that allows them a real sense of dignity. And I know that, for example, we saw that at Lochside Academy where they've got their annual disco or dance, and a number of people who are struggling to fund their attire for that, and the support that's gone there. It's a kind of a soft thing which does help people, so it's not dissimilar to that. So that would be up to £250 per applicant. And then going back to our successful food project and our comments at the beginning of this meeting, allocating further funding for targeted skills training in relation to food, so that we can teach people to cook and teach people the budgeting skills which will help them into the future. That would also come with some purchase of basic cooking equipment, so a kind of wraparound approach. We're not just giving people the skills and the budgeting experience, but we're giving them the basic framework to start out and to support themselves. Turning to the funding for community pantries and safe outreach, we're reallocating this again to some organisations within the city who are doing great work. As a former Citizens Advice Bureau board member, alongside some other colleagues, we know the work that they're doing in income maximisation and the benefit that that has for constituents across all the wards in the city. And if people can maximise their income, hopefully they will struggle less and have better support. So we're providing further funding to Citizen Advice for that. And recognising the change within our city. You know, it's interesting, you speak to Grampian Community Law Centre, people might have a problem with their washing machine, they can't wash their clothes, they're struggling. It all builds up into something which other people don't necessarily understand, and they are kind of being involved in assisting in that kind of soft way. So we're providing further funding both to the Grampian Community Law Centre, but also to the Aberdeen Law Project to kind of fill the gap, because if you try to find a lawyer in town who does legal aid, it is very limited. We're not removing that need for solicitors and intervention at higher levels, but that lower level in terms of consumer advice and dispute support will be backed with standardised leaflets in the key areas and also support. And we're wrapping this around approval of the other areas, convener, and also just asking the relevant director, Mr MacDonald, to come back to us on the actual impact rather than just the activity, looking at unmet need, but also how we take a long-term preventative approach to reduce reliance on crisis funding and support our citizens into the future.
That was very well timed. Thanks, Councillor.